10 Japanese Money Habits That Build Quiet, Lasting Wealth. The Wake-Up Call. 2 years ago, I was sitting at my kitchen table staring at a pile of stuff I'd just bought from Target. Candles I didn't need, a throw pillow to replace a throw pillow that was perfectly fine, a kitchen gadget still in the box from the last kitchen gadget I bought and never opened. My credit card statement showed $4,100 in charges that month. My savings account showed $812. I made $63,000 a year. I'd been making over $50,000 for 6 years. I had essentially nothing to show for it. That same week, I read an article about a Japanese woman named Fumiko Chiba, who wrote a book about a century-old budgeting system called Kakeibo. What caught my attention wasn't the system itself, it was a detail buried in the article. Chiba mentioned that many Japanese households she'd studied had been using some version of these financial habits for generations. Grandmothers passing them to mothers, mothers passing them to daughters. Families building wealth quietly across decades, using principles so simple they felt almost insulting compared to the complicated financial advice I'd been consuming on YouTube and Instagram for years. But here's what really hit me. Japan's cultural relationship with money is almost the mirror opposite of America's. In the US, we celebrate spending. New car, new house, new wardrobe. Congratulations! Wealth is performed, it's visible, it's posted. In Japan, wealth is hidden. It's considered tasteless to display it. Financial restraint isn't a sacrifice, it's a value. There's even a word for it, tsutsumashi. It roughly means modestly reserved, and it carries deep social respect. The quieter you live, the more admired you are. In America, the quieter you live, the more people assume you're struggling. I started applying these Japanese money principles to my own life, one at a time, over the following year. I didn't change my income. I didn't start a side hustle. I didn't cancel every subscription or stop eating out entirely. I just changed the philosophy underneath my spending. In 12 months, I went from $812 in savings to over $19,000. Same job, same salary, same apartment, different operating system. This video is about that operating system, 10 Japanese money habits that build quiet, lasting wealth, and that most Americans have never heard of. Every single one of these is applicable to your financial life in the US right now in 2026, regardless of what you earn. Some will feel immediately practical. Others will challenge how you think about money at a level that goes much deeper than budgets and spreadsheets. Let's get into it. Number 1. Kakeibo, the handwritten household ledger. This is the foundation, and it's over 120 years old. Kakeibo was invented in 1904 by Haniko Motoko, Japan's first female journalist, at a time when women in Japan had almost no financial autonomy. She designed it as a tool for housewives to take control of family spending using nothing but a notebook and a pen. The idea is brutally simple. At the beginning of each month, you write down 4 things by hand: how much money is coming in, how much you need for fixed expenses, how much you want to save, and how much you have left to spend. Then, every single day, you write down what you spent and sort each purchase into one of 4 categories: needs, wants, culture, education, books, experiences, and unexpected expenses. At the end of the month, you review everything and ask yourself 3 questions. How much did I save? What went well? What can I improve next month? That's the entire system. It sounds almost too simple to work, and that's exactly why it does. Here's what makes Kakeibo different from every budgeting app on your phone. The physical act of writing forces your brain to process each purchase consciously. When you tap a card and a number flashes on a screen, your brain barely registers it. When you sit down at night and write DoorDash $42 want, your hand is telling your brain something your app never could. You chose to spend $42 on food delivery. That was a want, not a need, not culture, a want. Practitioners claim Kakebo can reduce unnecessary spending by up to 35%. I didn't hit 35% in my first month, but I hit about 22%, which on my income at the time was roughly $1,150 saved in a single month from a notebook that cost $3. This matters in the US specifically because 47% of Americans entered 2026 without any budget at all. Among those who do budget, most use apps that automate the process, which means they never develop the conscious spending awareness that Kakebo builds. The app does the work, your brain stays asleep. Kakebo forces your brain to wake up, and once it's awake, it doesn't go back to sleep easily. There's another reason Kakebo has survived for over a century while every budgeting app cycles through popularity and abandonment within 2 to 3 years. It uses 4 spending categories instead of the 15 or 20 most modern apps use. The simplicity isn't a limitation, it's the design. The moment you sort a purchase into one of those 4 buckets, you're making a judgment call no algorithm can make for you. Is this restaurant meal a need or a want? Is this online course culture or a want dressed up in self-improvement clothing? Did you walk into Target for paper towels and walk out with $73 of things that happened to catch your eye? Those questions create what behavioral psychologists call cognitive friction. Friction slows you down. Slowness creates awareness. Awareness changes behavior. American financial culture is obsessed with reducing friction. Tap to pay, one-click purchase, auto-pay everything. Frictionless sounds efficient. In reality, frictionless spending is why the average American underestimates their subscription costs by $133 a month and their impulse spending by nearly $300. Kakebo deliberately reintroduces friction into your spending life. The friction is the feature. My friend Danielle tried Kakebo for 6 weeks after years of downloading, configuring, and abandoning budgeting apps within a month. She told me the difference was that apps made her feel like a passive observer of her own spending. The data was there, but she never processed it. Writing it down by hand forced her to process every purchase twice, once when she made it and once when she recorded it. By week 3, she'd started pausing before purchases and mentally categorizing them before she reached for her wallet. "Do I want to write this down tonight?" became her filter. If the answer was no, she didn't buy it. Her discretionary spending dropped by $400 in the first month. Number 2. Motanai, the deep shame of waste. This is a concept that has no direct English translation, and that's part of why most Americans have never encountered it. Motanai is a feeling, the emotional response of regret and discomfort that arises when something useful is wasted, discarded, or undervalued. In Japanese culture, wasting a resource, food, fabric, money, even time, is considered almost morally wrong. When someone throws away food that could have been eaten or replaces an appliance that could have been repaired, the response isn't, "That's their choice." The response is motanai. What a shame. That's a waste. Contrast this with America, where waste is structurally embedded in the consumer economy. The USDA estimates American households waste roughly 30% of the food they buy, approximately $2,100 per household per year, thrown directly in the garbage. Americans discard roughly 82 pounds of textiles per person per year, according to the EPA. We replace smartphones every 2 to 3 years when devices are engineered to last 4. We throw away furniture when we move instead of taking it with us. When I started practicing motanai, the first thing I did was track food waste. For 1 week, I photographed everything I threw away from my fridge and pantry. The amount was genuinely shocking. Half a bag of spinach, leftover rice I forgot about, expired yogurt, a quarter of a rotisserie chicken. I was throwing away roughly $40 per week of food, over $2,000 a year from my refrigerator. I started meal planning around what I already had instead of what sounded good. I started freezing leftovers the same day instead of telling myself I'd eat them tomorrow. I started buying smaller quantities more often instead of bulk buying things that go bad before I could finish them. Within 3 months, my grocery spending dropped by almost 30%, not because I was eating less, but because I was wasting less. Motanai extends far beyond